Yep, Arsenal already. That was a complete performance from Mikel Arteta's side, winning the season's first trophy, and yes, the Community Shield is a trophy, and also giving us a real good look at how they're looking to set up for the new season. So, how did Arteta outclass Maresca? How did a Martin Odegaard with a point to prove, alongside the new ideas of Bruno Guimaraes and Myles Lewis-Skelly, take control of the match? Why should Ricardo Calafiori be renamed the Everywhere Man? I promise that will make sense. How did players such as tzolis and Kai Havertz give a real sense of balance to this Arsenal team, still missing a few of their big guns, and an Arsenal team who, again, were flawless out of possession, but an Arsenal team who, by the end of the match, were playing with a swagger and a bravery of reigning Premier League champions. All of that, plus some more, I'm going to get into. And wait, this isn't one for the football purists. 0.0 XG from set pieces. It's not sustainable. So let's start with how Arsenal set the tone 23 seconds in. It actually started before that. Straight from kickoff, we're in our high possession shape, one that was extremely fluid, with a back three and Lewis-Skelly in the lone six. And a theme of this video will be the art of Calafiori's arrivals, joining the attack at the right time here, entering into that high left pocket. There's loads of activity off the ball around him, and as Tzolis whips it across to Madueke, who nods it back to White, Myles has this little check over his shoulder so he knows where Foden is coming from. I've said this all summer that Arsenal need to create more 1v1s that we can win. Well, this is Myles' USP, and that includes this slip pass we've seen him play before. It doesn't just happen for Calafiori though, he's always on the hunt to make himself available. Right now, he's offside, but look how alive he is, how he creates the passing option, and by now none of us are surprised at how cool in front of goal he looks. And that first goal felt vital for us psychologically, and that complemented, I think, a positive change in intention at times on the ball. Here we see a similar wall of four at the top of City's press that we saw last season, but this time we encourage Doku's jump. Bruno creates a 3v2 and bounces it to White, who's become the free man. Now it's Odegaard's turn to drop from where he's been pinning and play that first time up back into Bruno, who we now find as the new free man. These rotations between Odegaard and Bruno never felt forced for me, and I think a healthier Odegaard, not just adding energy to our play on the outside of a team's shape, but confident moving at clever angles, not stepping on toes and receiving inside like this as well, is a far more unpredictable Martin Odegaard, and the pitch just seems to open up for him. Havertz fights for it in the channel and brings Tzolis in, and this was probably, across the whole of the 90 minutes, the only wrong decision that Tzolis made. I want to see that bob inside and curler to the far post, shooting at goal. That's his trademark. For sure, there was some right-hand-sided bias to our play, but that's by no means a bad thing. Here's our 4-3-3 base, but that didn't just come as well with the old sense that our skipper Martin Odegaard was the only route to goal. We've got our balance back as a side. We know we can go long to Kai Havertz, who can reliably compete for that aerial ball, and we can structure ourselves to win the second balls better as a result. And it's funny how that outlet just breathes life into the other aspects of our game. Gabriel, who was colossal off the ball, didn't have his passing on it directed by a press. Here, instead, he punches it through into Bruno, who with this quick swivel and attempt to find Tzolis, who always just feels ahead of the game and his opponent, we had a taste of what Bruno is giving to this Arsenal midfield. I think fluidity was the massive difference between the two sides in possession. And when Lewis-Skelly dropped to split the centre-backs like this, Bruno would fill in the number 6. But watch Calafiori. I called him the Everywhere Man at the start, and for good reason. And I want to use this tweet from Billy Carpenter to explain why. Against a man-to-man press in the modern game, most often your fullback is your spare man, and you need someone as total a player as Calafiori is to constantly move in order to add that +1 or extra body across the pitch. First here, he pulls wide into a traditional left-back position, then drives and baits the press, a big difference between him and Hincapié. Calafiori then gives and goes with Tzolis, who, as I tried my best to explain in that scouting report, is about as helpful and associative as they come. finding Calafiori back on the inside, and then Tzolis finds Bruno, who hits a switch to Madueke, who was really important yesterday despite performance for the balance of the team against City as that release guy, the guy who would go beyond and give us another out. And just to stay with Christos Tzolis, last season, when things did get tough, when we were penned in by the opposition, when we did regain it in these positions, we deferred too often to a hoof down the pitch, or we lost it just too cheaply. Havertz as that backboard for Tzolis to play off is crucial, and just before half-time we saw another case of, yes, Kai roaming, but Tzolis combining with him and just making the correct decision time and time again. And again, I was big on that efficiency streak to Tzolis's game. But the point of this is, if you win the ball back here and you can't zoom away from your man, then can you connect us in transition like this? The always probing and intelligent Odegaard finds the space for that Tzolis pass, then finds Madueke, who pulls us up into the final third. And all I'll say is, if this was a Mikel Arteta team off the ball, none of them would be seeing the pitch again. As Odegaard picks it up, and this was a recurring rotation with Bruno Guimaraes once we had secured possession, switching high and low. Again, Tzolis is just ahead of the pack with his decisions. Odegaard spots it. It's a fabulous header across the goal, and Havertz nods it home to cap off another immense all-round display from centre forward. And it was an all-round performance from Arsenal. That includes Arteta's game plan out of possession, the players' execution of it, but also how quite literally that elevated our performance on the ball. City and Maresca, I don't say this lightly, they were outclassed. This was City in their 3-diamond-3 against our 4-4-2 block. But as always, the numbers aren't important. Let me explain the roles on show. Havertz and Odegaard would manage the ball player and Kovacic. Tzolis and Madueke would be watchful of City's left and right of the diamond, but ready to jump onto the wide centre-backs to apply pressure. And we'd begin with two double-ups in the centre, both the pivot on Foden and both the centre-backs on Erling Haaland. I've spoken a lot about Arsenal's attacking rotations, but defensively we rotate better than anyone. Tzolis flies out onto Kusanov, meaning Lewis-Skelly covers on Anderson. Bruno shifts across, whilst Gabriel is also ready to step onto Phil Foden. We can now leave Haaland 1v1 because it's a less threatening situation. Madueke had to balance things on the far side, tucking onto O'Reilly, but now it's his turn to jump onto Gvardiol as it comes back round again. Gabriel has now grabbed Foden, so Bruno can start to shift the other way, but this is where you need the help of your teammates, because we don't have a Declan Rice at this point in the game, and Bruno can't quite get across, and White is also pinned deeper by Jeremy Doku. But Madueke's angle and his intensity is spot on, and that forces the pass to O'Reilly wide, and City, frustrated as to only be able to play around our shape, try switching it to Semenyo and force it out of play. I won't lie, there were 3 times in the game where City found a way through, and those are the margins in these big games. Bruno showing what we will see at times in an Arsenal shirt, getting sucked out a little too wide, not managing the space Foden is in the middle, or us not quite shutting off the angle here for that central pass and giving City the chance to connect to Haaland, or for once City actually rotating in their shape, Doku tucking in field, overloading us between the lines, turning, driving and finding Haaland. And what can we take from this? The very aspects that allow you to win a football match are so often the ones that could go the other way on another day. It's just about what you choose to sacrifice. There are always going to be these moments in games, and bar this, Arsenal were flawless. And we were flawless right down to the angles and intentions in our pressing. Havertz arced from left to right to force Donnarumma either onto his weak foot or to go long. Odegaard here is sticking to Kovacic a little deeper to keep that compactness. Madueke is the one jumping, more than happy for Donnarumma to try and play that clip pass over to O'Reilly, where one of Bruno or Ben White in their hybrid roles can cover. But if you're Arsenal and you have a goalkeeper who can do this, Raya fizzes one into Tzolis with his weaker foot, and Tzolis has rotated with Havertz in a role that we gave Trossard at times against a high press last season, but one that he found a bit more difficult. But these first touches and connections from Tzolis the whole game were just a joy to watch, and it gives us again another solution against a high press. But sometimes you can plan all you want. It's just quality and a bit of bravery that beats a team like this. It's Martin Odegaard making the distances smaller and then doing this against Rico Lewis. Or it's another one of these clip passes into the space between the opposition's midfield and defensive lines that, if pulled off, are cheat codes. It's Maresca here showing his punchiness in the back line, picking out Tzolis, who has roamed all the way over here. Again, he makes that first touch in connection with Saka look so simple. We work it to Hincapié, who we finally got in a situation where he's not receiving static up high, but he's arriving high and wide. And it's a great low cross to Saka, who probably should have put it in the back of the net. And everything that I've mentioned so far culminates in Arsenal's third goal. Without Rice, it was a little bit more about managing space for Arsenal, but now we had the luxury of a player who can do double roles, man-marking Phil Foden, but also cutting out that vertical pass City were looking for the whole game. Havertz, as ever, reads the bounces, Lewis-Skelly finds Tzolis, and this could easily be one of his Club Brugge clips. And when we talk about the ease of striking up a relationship with someone, the point at which Tzolis ducks inside is the exact same point Calafiori changes his run to drag his marker away, dragging Diaz wide, and we've got numbers in the box. And Odegaard has always been best when he's arriving again in these more central zones. He's not that sitter or receiver, but what's equally encouraging is how he's picking out, again, that zone. All the runners are opening up for him, and for Tzolis to pick him out with so much movement going on around him, that's why you want players close to him. And it's been a while, I think, since we've seen that flow and that impudence, arrogance in front of goal from Martin Odegaard. And from then on, we were just having fun. Gabriel was playing with the press. Our midfield three plus Christos Tzolis were swirling, pulling their men around like the Greek does here, opening up that lane to Lewis-Skelly. And this is what PSG do well, and when we're on it, we do so well in terms of having a mixture of pinners and floaters. And that's what Tzolis, White, and now Lewis-Skelly are doing in this sequence, allowing Odegaard to be the one to probe for gaps. Find Calafiori, who again wants to play against the momentum of the player pressing him. He finds Havertz through the middle. Tzolis is pulling Diaz away, so Odegaard can continue his run and give it back to Havertz. What a performance. Yes, there are still things to do. We need that genuine magic attacker and another right-sided defensive option. But that is an Arsenal team against Manchester City who are ready. And we saved the best performance of pre-season until last. The Premier League is back. Arsenal are back. And we've started as we mean to go on. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you have, it'd be great if you can hit the like button and subscribe. I'll catch you very, very shortly in the next one. See you later.